think we are. We're just checking on our page. This is Jasmine and Stephanie from AO1 Fitness. If you're logging on, we welcome you.
Hello.
You're just hanging out. Grab a nice big warm cup of tea. That's what I've got.
Okay, it does say live. I think we're good.
We're good? Okay. Yes, I see us on the page. Okay, well, as Steph is just getting that set up. So my name is Jasmine, and this is Stephanie. We are both sisters from AO1 Fitness, and we just want to welcome you to another episode of AO1 Conversations. And this, the purpose of this is just to have conversations, discussions with you about topics that help us live life well. So our mission is for ourselves as well as for you to live life to the fullest as the best version of ourselves. And we're constantly working on just being that very best version of ourselves. So today we have a few people logging on, I see. So if you're here, just give us a little wave. We'd love to see you in the comments. And our question today that we're going to be discussing is, who needs to manage their time better? I definitely do. I think that's a pretty common thing that a lot of people are going through, especially where we're at right now. So a few people, we've just heard that they're just struggling with this new concept that they had to bring their work home, and they're just a little bit overwhelmed with having to work not just at home, but also in the midst of perhaps kids running around and just not having a proper office, or we don't have an office. We're in our kitchen when my husband and I are doing our work, and we have toddlers and babies, and well, a baby and a toddler. We have two. We don't have many. It sounds like we have many. Some people have 6 kids, and that is amazing. And other people are feeling a bit overwhelmed with the thought of homeschooling their kids, and other people just in generally want to be more productive. So we thought we would talk about something called time blocking. And today our hope is that you will learn the simple steps to create a flexible schedule where you prioritize what's most important to you. You can limit distractions, avoid moments of chaos if at all possible, establish needed margins, which we all need, and plan focus time with your family as well as self-care in this time. So in the comments, I'd love to hear where you're at. Personally, this concept of time blocking or practice, maybe it's not a concept, is very new to me. It's something that Stephanie's going to be talking about more. So where are you at? Is this something you've heard of, or is this something you have already done? And if so, how long have you been doing it? We'd love to know. And Steph, maybe you can start by just introducing what was the need that arose for you to start time blocking, and how long ago was that?
It's probably been about a year. I've read a lot of books and done a lot of self-work in the last year. So a lot of this is very new to me. So I do want to, hey, Leanna, I do want to make that very clear from the start. We're not experts, but this is a conversation that I love to have and love to get feedback and hear what other people think, and that we can just, as a community, talk about and try and improve ourselves. So couple of resources right off the bat, some books that I read that helped in this area. Well, Atomic Habits I mentioned last time. 4-Hour Work Week, that's a really interesting read, speaks my language. And Indistractable. That one I took some from it and I left some. So with anything, you gotta sift through what works for you. But probably what started my whole kind of process looking into all of this is our good friend, Heather Bond, is a life coach. And she kind of approached us and helped us getting our business started. And at the same time, she did personal life coaching for me, which has been the best thing ever. I just love it and think that everyone can benefit from life coaching. So this conversation kind of falls into that branch of life coaching, just thinking about how to be the best version of ourselves, basically.
Awesome. And so, okay, a lot for me, I'm going to be asking questions because I really don't know much about this and I don't have much of a schedule. So can you just start off with someone totally brand new? What is time blocking?
Okay. So time blocking as taught in the book Indistractable, because I think there probably are a few versions of it. It's sort of like how you would budget your money, or how experts say to budget your money, is that every dollar has a name. So every block of time in your day has a name, but it doesn't mean that it's I'm specifically doing this and then I'm specifically doing that. It's this chunk of time is all household chores. This chunk of time is all prep for what I'm going to teach my kids. This chunk of time is organizing my schedule. This chunk of time is sitting down and doing my work that I've taken home, or whatever your blocks are. And then there's flexibility within those blocks, but you focus on that category at that time and you limit distractions. Because the biggest thing that I've learned through, well, one of the biggest things learned through this is how often I feel like I'm doing so much and I'm spinning my wheels, but I just went, oh, that load of laundry's done. Oh, I better finish unloading this dishwasher. Oh, now the boy needs a question. Oh, now my phone's beeping. And I've actually not done a thing, but I felt so busy. So it just kind of helps to, like, when you see your whole schedule and it's all got its blocks, then when the phone dings, you know, okay, I'm going to get to that. I've got a block where I'll check all my messages. I don't need to respond right now. So it gives us the opportunity to answer the important over the urgent.
Right. I can see how that would be very beneficial, because then you're not, oh, I need to do this or I'll forget. You've already, oh no, I'll do it then. And it kind of gives a bit of peace of mind, I guess. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, and that's a good point about remembering too. So you like having strategies when something pops into your head, what's a very efficient way of remembering it? So like one thing for me, if I check a message and then I'm like, oh, I don't have time to reply. Well, now that message is lost because it won't be like a notification anymore. So to not check messages at all, so you have all those notifications, is one way that I find it's easier to remember that. But then other things, just having lists or whatever to remind you when you get to that block of time what you need to do.
So do you have like separate lists, like, and that notebook follows you wherever you go, so that if something pops in your head, you're like, oh, I got to put in this block and add it to this list?
I would say that the more you do it, the more streamlined it gets. So at the beginning, there was more of that, but now the more that you can prioritize important over urgent, the less urgent things pop up. And so a good example with health for that is important is eating well and exercising regularly. Urgent is I just got like diabetes or something more severe where it's like, okay, I have to go to the doctor and I have to get this taken care of right now. But had I done the important, it could have deferred the urgent. So that's kind of an extreme example. And maybe a more practical is the important is, like sorting your recycling as it comes, as opposed to the urgent of it's Monday morning and I got to get this out and down the driveway and now I'm flustered and rushed and I'm missing getting the recycling out. That's a petty example, I guess.
Okay. Can you see the comments, by the way? That's why if you see my eyes looking down, I'm trying to check it on my phone.
I see the ones that are popping up on our feed here, so they might be a little delayed.
Okay, I can't quite, my screen's small, so I can't see it. But did anyone comment, where are you at with time blocking? For me, this is brand new. If you're watching, have you either done it before? And if so, how long? Or is this something new for you as well? And also, if you have questions that you want answered, ask away anytime. So please share that in the comments with us, and you might have to let me know about them, Steph, and I'll read them back. Okay, so you gave a bit of a introduction to time blocking. Now, just who would this benefit the most, or is it for anyone?
Yeah, so I think it will benefit anyone. But I was saying to you, Jazz, before we started, that a little preview for you guys. In a couple weeks, I have a friend who has introduced me to the Enneagram. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's these 9 personality types, or more than personality, I would say. And it's interesting learning all this self-awareness. So I realized for myself that time blocking is very important because I'm a adventure seeker. I think I can do everything, and I try and cram 20 things into a small amount of time, and that's just my natural bent, and I just want to do it all. And so I would get scattered a lot, and I would get stressed a lot. So, sorry?
We talked about FOMO last week.
Yeah, have lots of FOMO. So having time blocking for me, even though it's a little counter to my personality, it gives me peace, because then I'm not doing one thing thinking I'm missing out on a whole bunch of other things. I can actually focus on that one thing because I know I've already blocked the time for all these other things, and then it gives like this freedom for adventures to be able to come, as opposed to, oh, that came up, I really want to do it, but now I'm trying to fit 7 things instead of 5 things, or whatever it is. So that's my personality. For someone else's personality, it might you might be very detail oriented, and you might like really enjoy having the schedule and task sheet, and it gives you this sense of accomplishment, and that's really good. But then you might need to be careful not to overdo it as well, and have it become too much of a stress. And for some other people, it might not work at all. There might be a totally different system. So it's probably not the end all be all for everyone, but some sense of organization will give peace, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right. Okay. So in general, it's going to be helpful for time management, but for some personalities, it's going to really like amplify the most productiveness, right?
Yes, definitely. Okay. Christine chimed in here. She's got some Enneagram videos as well, so that's awesome. Where I got people talking about topics that are coming up. Okay, did you time block when kiddos were toddlers? Emily's asking. So yeah, Jazz is saying she's new to this, so I'm kind of curious how it will work with really young ones, because I just got introduced to it in the last year, so I did not have it with toddlers. I had a flow of how our days went, but I crammed a lot into days at that point. I was still just how I normally am without these tools. So I don't know, Jazz, just chime in like as we're talking about things that you think could work with toddlers and maybe don't work with toddlers.
That's personally my sphere, is like once, like with my first, the nap schedule was like really established, and I could get chunks of work done. Like I didn't do time blocking per se, but I had chunks. This is my work time. This is my work time. But with my second child, his naps are all over the place, 2 hours, 20 minutes, and I never know what it is. So I feel like I just can't plan it ahead. So that's the tricky part. But eventually we know it will. Like eventually they will have a schedule, and then it could. I feel toddlers are a bit easier than babies, maybe. Like that's how I've experienced it. But Christine might actually have something to say about that, because she's doing it and she's got little ones.
She said she did more last year with a baby and toddler, and it worked pretty good. Yeah. So like productivity is a good benefit of it, but it's not the only goal. So when we kind of start to break it down, like it's good, but it's not the end all be all as well. Okay. So to start, how I like to start time blocking is starting with what are the things that are most important to me. So I actually call it life design more than time blocking. So yeah, kind of just try and like be really analytical about what your desires are, what brings you fulfillment and joy, what aspects of life need to be there. Because again, that important and urgent, like sometimes our most important things, I think for most of us, especially have kids, then family, we would put in that top kind of sphere. And It's sometimes the easiest thing to take for granted is just like intentional time. So when we list it out and then see, okay, these are the things that are important to me, now we can reflect that into our time blocks. Emily chimed in here, maybe the goal should be block guidelines while allowing for more flexibility. Right now, my toddler is a busy tornado. I love your toddler.
I understand.
And Christine says, I still time block because she's like me, Steph, where I like to do everything, and so does my husband. I'm so social. Yeah, so I think it really helps for us who like to do too much. Okay, so Jazz, what are like some examples? Maybe you can chime in here. So if you were to like things that are important to you, like what would you put in that important as opposed to urgent category?
Well, I love working. I could be a workaholic if I didn't have those boundaries. So to me, that's important to be productive. So however that is. So some days my productive is deep cleaning the house. I have that Tuesday, Thursday, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I try to do more blogs and online business kind of stuff. And then obviously dinner prep, playing with the kids, reading with them, educational plus fun, spending time with husband, all those things, and social. Yeah, but I find social gets pushed a little bit for me. It's not on my as important as the other things.
Okay, yeah, that's good to be aware. Yeah, so like I put order is one of the things that are important to me. And then under that, so the next category, I put entities that embody them. So under order, I have kitchen tidy, house organized, schedule set, meals healthy and on time. So to me, the importance is when I come home and things are in order, then I have freedom and flexibility to have more fun and have more adventure. So I don't get a lot of excitement out of doing those things, but to me the thing that I value is that it's in order so that I can enjoy time with kids without being distracted by it. So yeah, relationships, like my husband, my boys, order, health, and then impact on the world is kind of another big area for me. So then under that, then I put entities that embody them. So time at home with my boys, it's homeschooling. So you might be in the homeschooling realm with your kids or not. Yeah. So then you start to see the extension of that big category. And then under each of those, I wrote down activities or behaviors. So now we're getting a bit more specific. So some examples. Okay. So value of my husband, that happens at home primarily. Activities, so no schedule home time, having intentional family time. So kind of like actual listing these items, and then I can, in the next category, put a time domain with each of these. So then I kind of start to see what's realistic in my schedule and what shows my value for each of these things. So I start to get this kind of list with how many hours associated to each activity. And if this seems overwhelming, you can totally do this in chunks. Like this is just the whole like bird's eye view. And it's a lot up front, but it's one of those habits that you don't have to keep doing so much. You do it kind of once for a season. And then when we have a big change like the pandemic, you would need to do it again because our schedule looks quite different now.
Are you time blocking your entire calendar? Like everything has a block, or are you just picking, well, my priority is to spend time with my husband and my boys, so I'm going to make sure that I have a block within my calendar for that, but everything else is kind of loose? And you kind of start with one or two important categories, or do you just go all in and do it like your whole schedule?
I wish I could screen share. So I started with these lists and associated an amount of hours with each activity. And then within that, I gave myself specific habits. But how I translated that to the calendar is like a block of time. So business time, and then I have a margin, and then homeschool time, and then playtime with the boys, and then I have a margin, and then taking care of the house. So sometimes I go as far as to specify what household chore, and other times I just kind of say this will be that block of time, and then there's flexibility, like, okay, the vacuuming needs to get done now, as opposed to Thursdays at 4:45 I'm going to vacuum. Like, it's just a block of time, and then I have flexibility within those blocks. So same with like homeschool, I've got 4 hours set, but then I have another sheet where I kind of, because the priorities kind of shift within homeschooling. Like right now we have one big paper that needs to get done, so we're going to prioritize that more, and then other times we can have more time for art projects and different things like that. So it's just homeschool block, and then there's flexibility within that.
But your whole calendar has a block associated with it, or is there free time?
Free time's a block, yeah. And margins are a block.
Right, okay. But everything, there is a block basically for everything?
I've done it both ways. Right now with the pandemic, I don't have a block for absolutely everything, because, for example, I'm prioritizing sleep because I can, and so I don't have a set block every single morning, because I might just go, I'm just going to sleep until I wake up, and then I'm going to start on my block. So there's a lot of flexibility with it, but in other seasons where I'm balancing a lot of things, then I'm going to wake up at the same time every day, and then I'm going to go through my blocks, but then within the blocks there's flexibility.
A question just came up then. So you said you sleep in now because you have that opportunity, and then you get into your block, so then it's literally like just one after another, or is it, I missed that block, so I'll just jump into the next one, or it's not necessarily a time, but it's kind of an order of blocks?
So this is kind of where you make it fit for what works for you. So for me, there's some classes I teach at 6 a.m. still, so I'm going to be up for those classes. But if I don't have it,
those are online
classes. If I don't have that, then if I wake up at 8:30 and my time block starts at 9 for homeschooling, I'm going to start homeschooling, and I'm going to work out in the evening because I've got empty space there, so I can shift the blocks around.
Okay. Why don't we just pause and just check in if you have any questions, and we'll see what people have written. But if you have a question, feel free to jump on that right now. Hi, Joanne. Hi, Jessica. You guys just came on. Christine says, I find it helps if you have a day to meal prep, and this helps with health. Yeah, absolutely. So is meal prepping one of your blocks, Steph?
Well, right now, actually, because normally it is, but with the pandemic, I've found that it's been really easy to organize my fridge. So I've got veggies easy to grab, meat easy to grab, and I've got time to actually just cook the meals when we're going to eat. So I haven't found that I've needed to meal prep so much.
Okay. Cool. Christine says, can you explain the priorities and how things are important to time blocking?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't do a very good job explaining that. Okay, so back to the list. Okay, let me choose a category as an example. Probably boys in homeschooling will relate to the most people. So if your kids are younger and they're not in school, you could still have similar categories. Because when my guys were 2, I was like excited, like, come on, learn your alphabet. So it was kind of like natural homeschooling then too. Yeah. Okay, so then under my priority is my boys. And then under that, I've got activities or behaviors. So I've got divided into academic homeschooling, activities for homeschooling, and playtime. So for me, academics, they're 7 and 9, so they've got a bit more curriculum than some of the younger guys. We have 25 hours a week of academic. Activities, we've got 11 hours a week, and playtime, 2 hours a week. That seems a little bit skewed when you just look at it, but to me, like, the academic and the activities are playtime too. Like, I just love it all, and we make it all fun. So it's not like academics, like, all right, sit down and read. Like, anyway, those are the priorities that fit for me. So those are the time domains. So one thing that has gotten me is signing them up for way too many activities, which is not a problem right now with the pandemic. But then I've got like specific habits of like no more than 3 activities a week. That's what we can manage, kind of thing. Okay. And then, so within that, the 25 hours, I have it on our calendar. Now take that and divide it out. So because we're homeschooling and my husband's off work on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we tend to take Thursday as a no school day, and then we do a block on Saturday or Sunday morning. So I've got the blocks kind of set in there. And so from 9 to 1, or what it's a little different on each day, but we're going to do homeschooling. And then within that block, I have another tab. And in there, I've got, okay, to get through our French course, we need to do 3 hours a week. To get this paper on Galileo done, we need to do 2 hours a week. And then some of the activities, like we've got Zoom math tutoring, and that's 2 hours a week. So then I have it kind of divided down, and if there's a specific appointment, like the tutoring, I'll put that into my calendar in like a different color or bold, but otherwise the calendar is all light green for the homeschool block of time.
Okay.
So it's set, but it's flexible within it. And then I can look at my calendar and see, okay, my priority of my boys and of their academics is being met with how much time I'm putting into that. And playtime.
Answer your question, Christine and Emily? We'll see if they answer. How often do you just look at your calendar? Do you review it every morning or before you go to bed for the next day? Or do you follow it just throughout the day? Oh, what's next?
Yeah, I've got set notifications for all the like specific appointments, like a class I'm teaching or a Zoom that the boys are on. And then especially now with the pandemic, honestly, it's been very nice to have more of the same every day, whereas typically my schedule has to balance so many other people's factors that it's like I'm constantly going, what are we doing now? What's next? So the more I think that we can streamline it, the less stress there is with that. And then you don't need to check it all the time. But at the beginning, it probably will be helpful to like keep checking back. Are we at the right spot? And oh, this thing's coming up, but okay, I do see that I have a block for that later.
Right. Yeah. Emily says, yes, thank you. That's good. And keep asking questions, ladies, if you have any. Oh, Christine says, can you explain when you had life coaching, how the coach helped you realize the values you had and how that relates to time blocking? Oh, that's a great question, Christine. Did you get that, Steph? Do you want me to read it again?
I heard you. Yeah, that's so, I mean, my only experience is with Heather Bond, so I can promote her. I don't know other life coaches, but she's amazing. And she would just ask the best questions. So she never came and told me, hey, you need to fix this, you need to do that. She would say, what do you want to focus on? What's on your heart or what's on your mind right now? And often at the beginning, it'd be like, I'm just so stressed. I can't figure it out. I'm trying to do all these things. And like, it was probably so obvious to her, you're trying to do all these things and you can't fit it in. But she was so patient, would just keep asking the same, like the perfect questions. And it would get me to stop and reflect. Because I think as busy people, we don't always take the time to just stop and reflect. Like, why am I spinning my wheels for moving towards what I actually want, or am I just spinning my wheels for not in line with my purposes, not in line with what I prioritize, what I say I value? So yeah, it was just kind of this long ongoing process, and I had to strip a lot of things away, and it was really hard, like to say, no, I can no longer provide this service, or no, I can't take that on, or no, we're not going to do this activity. And that's tough to me, but it gave so much freedom and has allowed me to, like, I really feel passionate about being in each moment and not wasting a moment. especially those of us with kids. Like, you blink and they're the next year older. Like, we all know this. And so even right now, when we're in these tough and uncertain times, it's just so amazing that we do get the opportunity to be with our kids and to see these special moments. And I just know for myself, if I am not intentional, I'll be so busy, excited, dreaming about the future or planning the next thing or doing the next activity, I'll miss it.
Yeah.
Not everyone's the same way. Some of you are amazing at being in the moment, and maybe you need to plan a little bit more for the future. I don't know. Like, this is just my perspective.
Right. Emily says learning to say no is so hard, but important, and boundaries are freeing. Yeah, absolutely. That is really hard, though, to let go of things. And it's really great that you've, like, instead of spinning the wheels, you've put it on a calendar. It's like, oh, if it doesn't fit, then it doesn't fit. But when it's in our head, we're like, oh, we can fit it, right? Yeah, add that on. I've been there too. But when it's like, nope, there's no wiggle room.
Yeah.
It's like Tetris. Yeah, they have to match.
That's right.
That is good to do. I like even if you don't get into the time blocking, if that's not for you, but you just do the step one of writing a list of your priorities, how freeing that will be. Because even if they're just in your head, at least there's a filter of, oh, I'm about to do this activity. Wait, does it filter through the priorities that I'm living by or the principles that I'm living by or things like that? Yesterday, someone was talking about something similar, but she was saying, write a joy list. What brings you joy, and make sure that you plan it into your schedule every day to have at least something from that list in your life every day. So yeah, similar concepts too.
Yeah, that's good.
Hi, Lindsay. Another one watching. Have we gone off track at all? Any about how to actually implement the time blocking? Any last concepts or tips on that, Steph?
Maybe a specific note, but something I was thinking about today with so many people suddenly homeschooling and kind of getting thrust into this world. And I consider myself a very new homeschool mom. We're on year 2 and I'm nowhere near an expert, but my little tidbit to help relax you a bit is I see a lot of posts on Facebook about worrying about keeping up in the agenda and the checking things off. And I've definitely gone back and forth on that kind of stress level. But in my homeschool block, the amazing thing about homeschooling is it's not just what a kid would do in a classroom because they're at home. So take this opportunity, like, it takes 3 times as long in my case, but if my boys are making the pancakes themselves, that's homeschooling. If they are bringing their own laundry as I give them step-by-step instructions to do their laundry, that's homeschooling. If they're having a bit of a breakdown about some writing exercise and I get to take that moment and talk about strategy with them and encourage them and find a new way of approaching it with them so they can walk away learning something for themselves that's greater than the academics. Like, that's all these kind of external areas are part of homeschooling because you're building the whole life and character of this child, not just the reading, writing, arithmetic, which I love that part too. But so even if in your 4 hours you're like, oh, we only got through one worksheet, but you had all these other moments, that's more valuable. And that's the gift that we have for this time while we're at home.
Right. Yeah. So to take that stress off of, is important for a lot of moms. So let's talk just a bit about balancing and maybe using the time blocking practice. So some people are not just homeschooling, which is a new thing for people, but they're also, maybe they're used to their kids going to school and them going to an office, and now they're both together. So they're not just able to, okay, let's have a lesson. I'm going to be a teacher today. It's now I got to get you set up and working, and I got to go find myself some quiet to work. How can we do that? And maybe we
yeah.
might need some help from the audience too, as you guys are all at different places than us.
So especially if two parents are home working, I think is probably the toughest situation, and if the space is small. So just some tips would be organizing your environment, like we talked about with habits. So what is the quietest room in the house? Okay. At whose job is more flexible for time? So can one spouse do the early morning focused get work done shift and the other spouse do the afternoon or the later evening? For kids, there are an amazing amount of resources for free right now for homeschooling. So depending on the ages of the kids, finding I'm going to be intentional hands-on with your education and helping you and teaching you right now. And then this is you being independent time and like just talking honestly to the kids, like, mom and dad need these 2 hours. We need to focus on our work as well. This is the fun activity you get to do. You get to practice being independent. And you might be bored, and kids being bored is actually a really good thing. That's a hard lesson for kids, but they will learn creativity if they're allowed to be bored. They don't need to be distracted all the time.
Yes.
That can be hard because they can be louder when they're bored. So finding the times for that. Yeah, so if it can work, like time blocking will be really crucial in those situations so that both spouses can get the time they need to focus on their job, but also to be able to have intentional time with their kids and let their kids be independent sometimes.
That's good. My husband and I are both working at home as well. And so we've kind of been doing it, but all in our heads. So I would like to try to do the actual time blocking, but generally he'll just tell me all of his important meetings that he does online. And then when there's a little bit of wiggle room, and I'll if I can take the kids out of the house for like a trail walk or play in the backyard so that it's a bit quiet. And then he'll usually take over in the late afternoon when I'm exhausted and I want to do some work. Yeah. And right. Finding the right place too. You were saying at first he was doing all his meetings in the kitchen, and we have a very small house. And I was trying to keep the kids quiet in either one small room or sneak past him to get outside. And it was just not working. But now he's in the kids' room, and then we have the house to ourselves, and we don't have to be as quiet. So that's worked really well.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Creative solutions.
Tag teaming. I actually think it's easier having two at home working than if there was just one person, like a single parent. I think that would be harder personally because we're able to tag team.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Or not even just a single parent, but if one parent's still working out of the house, like an essential service worker, and one's at home. Yeah, I personally, I think that would be harder.
Yeah. I mean, my jobs aren't as demanding. Like I don't work full time, but it is primarily when the boys and I are home. It like when Justin's working is when I work and homeschool as much as possible so that when he's home, we get to relax all together as a family. So it does feel a bit of that balancing. So I do utilize a lot of, okay, this block of time I do this block of time you're independent. I mean, some of it works really nice. Like when it's sunny and I'm teaching a class, I can take the computer outside and the boys can ride their bike on the driveway. Like that's just a perfect situation, but it doesn't always work out quite like that.
Yeah. Right. And different ages. So your kids are older. The ones with toddlers, they obviously need the full attention and
and you can't count on nap time. So you can't time block it necessarily. That's harder for sure.
So everyone's going to work, be flexible with yourself in this. Christine is saying, my oldest son learned how to dress himself these past few weeks. Oh, cool. Sometimes I let him lead the walk and ask him where he wants to go. Okay, so good. Yeah,
that's great. So good. They love to make decisions. The more autonomy we can give our kids, it's awesome.
Yeah. And her husband is working outside the home. So you're on your own at home. So that can be hard. Yeah. Just getting back to just the details of time blocking, how long would you say, just in general, it takes to set it up? And then how often do you tweak it? like you kind of mentioned that a little bit, like because of the pandemic switched, but just in a general life time span, how?
To like start from scratch, if you could have a 3-hour block to like sit down and like clear your head and focus on it, that would be great. I know that might not be possible for some people with young kids. So you could do it in chunks, like kind of write down, if you get 1 hour, kind of analyze and think about your list of priorities and give it good thought, because if you're going to organize your whole schedule around what you prioritize, you want to be sure that is what you prioritize. And then the next hour you could kind of break those down into categories, and then the hour after that assigning it time blocks and then translating it into an actual calendar to see, because once you translate to the calendar too, you might have said like, oh yeah, I want to have 20 hours of family time every week. Like, of course, I'd love that. But then I look at the calendar, I'm like, well, I can't make that quite work. So then you've got to tweak what you want in reality a little bit together.
Right. So there's more tweaking at the beginning till you get something that really works well.
Yeah. And then you can, definitely continue to tweak. So actually, if you put in your calendar a block for schedule review and schedule tweaking, that's a really good idea. Christine's asking how to coordinate with your spouse. So that's a good question. My husband doesn't really love talking about scheduling. He's not really a time block kind of person. So that has been, I'm always like, okay, let's plan this so we can maximize stuff. And he's like, let's just chill. So we've got some, sorry?
He's a musician.
He's a musician, yeah. No, we've got a lot better about talking about it. And the last time I did this, like pre-pandemic, because now, I mean, our time's so much more flexible. We can just be on just in time when he's home. But before my last time block, I actually time blocked for him and then got him to fill it in. So I went, okay, here's your work schedule, and here's like these like big chunks of time where you can do music, and here's where I'm in the gym and I need you to do this, and these are the empty blocks, and can you tell me what things you want there, or if you want to move your music blocks around, kind of thing. And he actually said, oh wow, this is great, you made it so easy for me, and he filled it in and was like, okay, now I know what you're doing and you know what I'm doing, and it works together and we're not butting heads. So that worked for us that time. But it is just like a process of figuring out how to communicate with your spouse the best in this area.
Though?
Sorry?
Did he stick it out?
Well, it was, I mean, okay. To be honest, I would still overschedule looking back at it. Like in the like extra free times, I'd be like, okay, so we're going to have dinner with these people now. And, oh, those people are coming over that day. So I still did try and schedule too much in there. And so I'm still working on cutting that back. But the rough framework of it did last. And it worked out well. And it was good for him too, because then I could see, because he worked shift work, and I would always just think, okay, you should be up by now. But now I could actually like visually see it, like, no, he needs to sleep a lot longer than that.
Yeah, that's good. Is there another question that came up?
How do you, oh no, that was the other one. Okay, so Christine says it's important to, on the weekends, to time block, less argue about the things we want to do, so much better. She's more like Justin, and Tim is more organized and loves time blocking. So it's a little bit of reverse. Yeah, especially if you both really like doing a lot of things, then it's good to decide ahead of time. Then sure, that can help with knowing what you're doing.
It's so funny how couples are opposite. Yeah. You look at almost every couple, you'll see one will love it and one will not.
Right.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, I'd say for the one who loves the time blocking, like make, when you have the conversation, set it up ahead of time. Hey, at this time, could we chat about this? And do all the legwork, so you're not asking them a whole lot of questions. Just kind of lay it out and then let them make the key decisions. Because same thing with like budgeting conversations. If I come in, let's get into all the details, I've lost them.
Very good. Can you talk a little bit about, so now we've got our time block, we're following the flow. What about distractions? You've got this really nice schedule set up, but something comes up, where especially kids are probably the number one distraction, but even just phone calls or, I don't know, things, people want to come over and they've got a very small window of time, so they can only visit at this time, or like, how do you deal with that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So many good questions. So I would say it goes back to priorities. Like for me, one of the priorities is social and having one-on-one, like good conversations. And I want to have the room and spontaneity to do that. So that's where margins has become huge. And I didn't realize how stressful it was living without margins before that, because I would still engage in those conversations and then it would throw off the rest of my schedule. I'd be really stressed. So now, like, account for, if that's your priority, account for if pre-pandemic, if you were to run into an old friend and stop and have a 20-minute conversation, would you then be stressed and rushed to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, and be late the rest of the day? If so, you need more margin. So that would be one thing for any of those kind of healthy interruptions. Okay. But other distractions, it goes back to our habits conversation. And for me, like, realizing how much of a distraction the phone is has been quite the journey. So finding habit, layer of habit on habit to kind of break that hold. And I have my boys keeping me accountable now. Like when I'm on my phone, they're like, hey, why are you checking your phone? Because it steals my intentional time, particularly with the boys, because that's majority of my day is homeschooling time with them. And if I'm always on my phone checking every message that pops up, I'm not making eye contact with them. I'm hardly hearing what they're saying. Like it's not lining up with my priorities. So for me, I've gone a little extreme on the phone, but I have it set to no notifications during homeschool time and at nighttime. Time block when I'll check messages. And I'm not perfect at this, but these are the habits that I've layered in. And I've actually just recently taken the Facebook app right off my phone. So because then if I'm working, because I mean, Facebook marketing, it's part of business. But I will open the laptop when I'm going to work. So if I'm not working, I don't need to check whenever I feel bored or whatever. Mm-hmm. So this way, if I have to check something for work, I can still go through the Chrome, like I can still go to the web-based Facebook page, like it's possible. But the ease of just open and check and flip, I've removed that and made it difficult.
Wow.
Yeah. And really, I don't miss it. Like when I want to engage socially on Zoom, on Facebook, or do business, like it's not that hard to open a laptop, but it is that extra step. So I can't just like mindlessly do it. What else? Yeah, distractions. So even like hearing the beeps, even if I'm like, oh, I'm being good, I'm going to ignore that beep, but I've heard it, it's still kind of in the brain and distracting. So keeping the phone, I haven't done it actually very well since the pandemic, but pre-pandemic when it was like more rigid schedule, keeping the phone in another room when it's not time to check messages and that sort of thing, you'll still hear a ring. So if someone really needs to get a hold of you, they can still call you. I know it's old school, but they can if there's an emergency. Right. But you won't hear every ding. And like I've turned off the dings for Messenger. So if you really need to get a hold of me, text instead of Messenger, and people eventually get to know that.
Because I'm probably the one that messages you the most.
Well, it works. So anyway, the phone I would say is probably the number one distraction, but there could be a lot of other distractions, whatever you find steals your focus away from what you say is your priority. So Like if my house is in an uproar, like I just am behind on keeping up on all of the things, that's very distracting to me. So then it would be better to add in the extra block of like, let's get the laundry and the dishes and everything just set so they're not constantly distracting. Because every time you walk by that mess over there, it's taking your energy where you're like, oh no, I see it again, but you just deal with it. And now you don't have that distraction all the time.
Yeah. And people get used to also, if they're messaging you a lot, if you respond right away, they kind of know that you're on it. Whereas if you leave it a little bit, they're like, oh, okay, she's busy.
Yeah.
And they might respect your time a little bit too, if it's not important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or defer people a bit more to email, because that's kind of meant to be, here's all my thoughts and I'll wait a while for your response, as opposed to this instant. I feel like it's too much pressure to keep up on it, and that's probably not our priority. Might be your priority you could be a totally different situation if you're not with kids and you're living alone and this is a pandemic. Like, yeah, be social. Like it's a good outlet. But if it's a distraction, then limit it.
Yeah, that's a good word. It's got to be kept in balance and used for the right purpose. And it's not a bad thing in itself. It's just, you got to prioritize. Is it your priority right now?
Yeah.
That's good. Any last questions from our audience about time blocking? And if homeschooling is something that is overwhelming to you right now, and maybe that is a topic that maybe Steph could touch on another day even more, or a little bit more today, let us know. I don't know anything about it, but Stephanie's been doing it for a while, because we just want to be a resource for wherever you're at right now so that we can be living to our best. So pop any questions. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap it up fairly soon. And Steph, do you have any last remarks or tips or comments?
I just kind of stress that everything we talked about are tools, and they're not the right way or the wrong way kind of thing. So finding the tools that work for you, to just be able to line up your energy and what you do with what you value and what you prioritize. And when those line up, I think we all feel more fulfilled and more full of life. So that's the purpose. It's not, are you a time blocking king or queen? It's just, do you feel fulfilled? Are you living well?
Yeah, exactly. And Christine, try to time block one friend, call a day. Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. Very good. Well, the next time we'll see you is tomorrow morning at 8:30, right here on our Facebook page. Steph has another free workout for you. There's no equipment option or with equipment, so you can scale it to your fitness level from beginner to advanced. And we'll be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday for those workouts. Otherwise, we'll be back next Tuesday. We have a special guest for this online conversation. Ryan May Music will be here, and he'll be chatting about just how music is so important in the social distancing time, like how it can bring joy into our life and stability, as well as just the benefits of learning an instrument for both as adults and as kids. And any last comments from you, Steph?
That's it. Yeah. Looking forward to hearing your conversation next week.
Yeah, I am too. I'm going to learn a lot from him. He's got a lot of good insight. So thank you so much for tuning into our AO1 Conversations. And our motto is that you are more capable than you think. And we believe that there's just even more and more that you're able to do and be into this world. And we're excited to see you continue to grow as we are as well. So we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.